What's up, guys? Welcome back to our channel. As you can tell, Michaela is not here with me today. She left me to go to work and go do, adult things, and I'm off today. So I thought that I would just film a video doing some makeup, telling you guys a story. I thought that we could talk about something that I feel like isn't talked about enough in our community. So let's get into it. First things first, I gotta get these bangs out of my face, so I'm just gonna try to get this on here. It's always a process, but cute. Wow, look at that. What I wanted to talk about today is age gap dating. For those of you who don't know, age gap dating is when you are dating somebody who is either significantly older than you or significantly younger than you. I feel like in the gay community specifically, we tend to look past age gap dating. If you look like in the hetero community, an older man dating a significantly younger woman is really frowned upon. Vice versa, if a younger man is dating an older woman, then that's also frowned upon. But when you have two people who identify as the same sex that are dating and there's a significant age gap, it just kind of is looked past because people, I don't think that they view it as much of an issue just because it is two people of the same sex. So I just wanted to tell a story about my experience with age gap dating, why I have such big feelings about it, and just kind of go from there. When I was 18, I met a woman who was 27 years old. I was almost 19. We met literally right before my 19th birthday. But we met online, as most people in Utah do when they're dating, because our gay community, while it is so big, it also feels so small. We all, the locals out here, we call it Small Lake City because everybody knows everybody. Picture the L word, but on steroids. We literally know everyone unless, somebody has moved in from out of state. I've probably slept with somebody who slept with them and their ex. So it's just kind of how it is out here. And so anyways, I met this woman online. At the time, I was young and just wanted to be loved and seen, and I was in a really abusive household that I was growing up in, and as most 18-year-olds, we just want to be validated. I was newly out, so I didn't have a lot of experience dating in the gay community, and I didn't really have anything in common with my peers because of the way that I grew up. So a lot of the other 18-year-old, 19-year-old I was meeting, they all wanted to party and hang out and do all this stuff, and I just wasn't interested. That led me to date a lot of women who were older than me, this woman specifically that we'll go into more detail about. I obviously started dating her really young, and I wish that I could say that she was the first woman that I dated that was significantly older than me, but she wasn't. The first woman I ever slept with was 28 and I was 18. One of my first girlfriends out, after being out of the closet, was 24 and I was 18. I would go to her house and sit on the floor of the apartment that she paid rent for and do my freaking geometry homework. It's just, looking back at that is insane. As an 18-year-old, I definitely have always considered myself an old soul. I've always been 5 years ahead of my peers as far as maturity goes because I grew up in a really traumatizing household where we didn't get to be kids and I had to grow up very quickly. So I just didn't have things in common with the people that were my age. So anyways, I started dating people who were significantly older than me. I met this woman. We start going on these couple dates. It turns into a whirlwind romance so quickly where what I know now is love bombing. She loved bombed the heck out of me, just constantly, telling me how incredible I was and how beautiful I was and how amazing of a human being I was, and just all this stuff. And she's just saying all these really nice things to me. She's buying me things. She's wanting me to meet all of her friends. It's moving very quickly. She's just all over me all the time, always wants to spend time with me. And these are things that I'm not getting anywhere else. The house I'm growing up in, nobody could tell if I was there or not. I didn't really have friends, but it wasn't genuine friendships. I was a placeholder friend. I was somebody to go do something with, but they all weren't really paying attention. And then here's this person who comes into my life that's older than me. It's giving me that validation that I'm always looking for from people who are older than me. She's love bombing the hell out of me. She's making me feel so special, so important, so loved. So after 2 weeks, she asked me to be her girlfriend, and I said yes. She's staying over at my parents' house because I still lived there. She'd stay over there. We'd go stay at her parents' house because she lived with her dad at the time because she had just broken up with her ex-fiance like 2 months prior to us meeting. This whole thing is just so full of red flags. And then for my 19th birthday, I decided that I was going to get myself an apartment. I'd been saving up for it. I was like, that's it. I'm going to move out. I'm going to be on my own. I'm going to get my own place. Well, she just decided we were moving in together. I was just like, yeah, okay. So at this point, we've been dating for a month. So I had just turned 19, just got my first apartment. She's decided she's moving in with me, and I'm like, you know what? This makes sense. This is what people who are in love do, and we're so in love. So she's going to move in with me, and it's okay that she's not going to pay any of the bills, and it's okay that she's not going to pay any of the rent because I'm just going to pay the whole thing, and it's going to be great because I love her. She had told me that she was in all this debt from being with her ex-fiance and her ex-husband. Do you see the pattern? I'm going to help her, and I'm going to get, this taken care of so that way she can get her life together. So she moves in with me. A couple months after that, come December, she proposes to me in front of my family. And I say yes, because we're in love. And so we're going to get engaged and we're going to be married and it's going to be great. And this is all just happening so quickly. 19-year-old brain, I just want to grow up so fast. I just want the point that I'm at in my life to match where I think that I am mentally and maturity wise, because I definitely don't fit in with my peers. I fit in more with people who are over 25. So I just want to do all of these things. So I say yes to marrying her and we start to plan our wedding. Fast forward a couple months from there and she decides that she would like us to have a baby. But in order for us to have a baby, we need to be married so that way she can be on the birth certificate and we don't have to go through the whole adoption process. And that would just make everything so much easier. So what do? Come March of that year, we've only been engaged for 3 months. We've been together for less than 6 months at this point, and we decide to get married. So we gather all of our close friends, we go to a park, and our friend marries us. And before I know it, I am 19 and married and trying to have a baby. Now, before we get too far into this, I do want to give a trigger warning for miscarriages, talk about loss of a pregnancy, talking about infertility, about something that you're not comfortable with. Maybe skip ahead a couple minutes in this video so that way you don't have to hear about this. I just don't want to unintentionally trigger somebody. And I know that's obviously a very hard subject for myself, and I can only imagine how other people feel about it. So I just wanted to let you know that we are going to discuss some of that. So after she decides that she wants us to have a baby, she isn't going to be the one who gets pregnant. I am, because I'm younger and because she didn't want to quit smoking. Those were her main reasons for not wanting to be the one who gets pregnant. She wants me to do it. And I agree, because I will do anything for her at this point. Anything she wants. I have married her. I have funded our lives, our apartment. I've paid all of our bills. At this point, I'd also taken all of her debt from her other relationships into my name under unsecured personal loans. I would do anything for her, anything that she wanted, because I didn't want her to leave me. So we start the process of trying to find a sperm donor. We found one guy where it didn't end up working out with him. And then we found another one who was really sweet, and he was really great, really genuine, wanted us to be able to experience having a family, signed all the contracts, had no issues. And so we started setting up when I was ovulating to have him come over, do his thing into a cup, and then leave 5 times in a week-long period while I was ovulating so that way I could get pregnant. After a few months, I got pregnant for the first time. And I found out I was pregnant. I was at work and I'm going through my computer doing some stuff, and she had just backed her phone up to my laptop. And all of a sudden, all of these nudes of her ex-fiance start popping up, and all of these screenshotted text messages of just sex and all this stuff is popping up on my laptop. And I start to panic because I'm at work, first of all. I'm trying to figure out what the heck all this stuff is and where it came from. And the text messages are screenshotted and they're dated. So it had been from before we had gotten married. And then there were some that were after we had gotten married too. And there's all these photos and everything. So I'm freaking out. The screenshot on the text message, the name is saved under a name that's not her ex's name. And so I called her on my lunch break and I was like, hey, I just found all of these photos on my laptop. Who is what the name was? And she was like, oh, it is blank and it's her ex's name. And I was like, why is she saved in your phone under that? And she was like, well, sometimes she goes by that. And I was like, okay, well, why do you have all of these dirty text messages and these nudes of her on your phone? Why are these backed up to my laptop? And she was like, oh, those are old. Those are from back when we were dating. And it's because she has photos of me. So I just keep them just in case. And because she has screenshots of things I've said to her. And so I just keep all of those. And I was like, well, these are after we got married. And she was like, no, that's just the day that I screenshotted them. She convinced me that in those photos, those were the days that she screenshot them, not the days that they were sent. And I believed her because I just found out I was pregnant, and I can't be pregnant and then automatically be getting divorced because this person's cheating on me, and I must be crazy because how could I even question her loyalty and bring that up? Because just because she's cheated in every other relationship doesn't mean she's going to cheat in this one. And she told me that I was a horrible person for even accusing her of something like that, and that I should trust her. I was her wife and she wouldn't have married me if she was going to cheat on me. And so I should know that she just loves me and that she would never do something like that to me. And I felt awful for accusing her of cheating on me. I had friends who would come over after that whole thing had been found out, and I showed them the messages, and they sat there and they were trying to convince me that she was lying and that that's not how the phone works and that she had cheated on me. And I told them that they were all wrong because that's just how it works with her phone, that she screenshots them and then that's the date that's on the text messages. So all that happens. I don't know if it was from the stress or just from some other health conditions that I was diagnosed with later, but I ended up miscarrying the baby that I was pregnant with. I don't know if it was from the stress or I had some other health conditions and health issues that I found out about later in life that could have caused that, but regardless, I ended up losing the baby, which caused a huge rift in our relationship, and just decided to start trying again a few months later. And so that's what we did. After that, it had taken about a year before I got pregnant again. And at that point in time, I was already thinking about divorcing her because I had started noticing things that she was saying to me wasn't lining up. She would tell me that she was sleeping at the call center that she worked at in their on-call rooms instead of coming home at night because she just wanted to be there to work all of the overtime so that way she could get a bunch of money and pay me back for all of the debt that she'd put in my name and then the other debt that we had racked up in being together. Because this is a side note, at 19, obviously I had very good credit because I didn't have really anything other than a couple auto loans that I had paid off already. And so my credit score was really good. And I had taken out a bunch of credit cards, and she would do things where she'd be like, oh, I went and bought groceries. But it turned out that she was just charging it to my Walmart credit card that I had taken out when we were in a pinch. She was taking money from my Amazon card and ordering things. She was taking my other credit cards and buying gas with them and going to Walmart with my Walmart credit card and buying cigarettes. And she told me, I'm working all this overtime so that way I can help you pay that back. And I'm staying at work so that way I don't have to drive and I can, pick up more shifts because then I can just go sleep for a couple hours and then go back and go to work. And I was just like, yeah, okay. And at this point, I'm working 3 jobs. I'm exhausted anyway, so I don't necessarily mind that she's not coming home, but I'm also not stupid. So I knew that she was cheating on me. At that point, I decided I was ready to divorce her, and we were scheduled to do one more meet up with our sperm donor. And so I decided this will be the last one, and then I won't do it. It hasn't worked for a year. I'm not going to get pregnant. There's no way, this isn't going to happen. It's going to be fine. So I find out a few weeks later that I'm pregnant, and I panicked because I was getting ready to leave her, and I didn't know how I was supposed to do that with a baby. I try to take everything as a sign, and I was like, maybe this means that I'm not supposed to leave her. Maybe this means that this is our sign that we're supposed to stay together and we're supposed to raise this baby together. After about 3 weeks of being pregnant, I started to have symptoms of miscarrying again while I was at one of my jobs and ended up having to leave to go to the ER. While I was at the ER, I called her. She was at work, and I was like, hey, I'm having signs of miscarrying. You need to come to the ER. So she gets there. She's sitting with me while we're waiting for the doctor and the test results to come back, and she keeps leaving to go smoke cigarettes. People who know me in real life know who this person is, and that they were a chain smoker, and it was a real problem. So she keeps leaving to go smoke cigarettes, and she leaves the room, and I'm like, the doctor's gonna be here any minute. Can you please just stay here? And she started yelling at me in the ER that she needed to go smoke because there's something wrong with our baby and she needs to go calm herself down, and she's screaming at me. and ends up storming out of the ER. While she's gone, the doctor comes back in and tells me that my HCG levels weren't rising and that there wasn't a heartbeat and that I had lost my baby by myself while she was outside smoking cigarettes. And later I found out that she was out there on the phone with her ex-fiance telling her about how we were losing our baby. After I've been sedated, they released me like a few hours later and sent me home. And after that, they told me to just wait and let things happen naturally. And if they didn't, then to come back. So a couple days later, I went to follow up with my regular doctor. On the way home from that appointment, that process did start happening. And I got home and started experiencing all the pain and the cramping and the, all of that stuff that comes with having a miscarriage. And after it was over, I had passed out and gone to bed. And I woke up in the middle of the night to her having a bunch of friends over for a party. She was trashed and they were all drinking and talking, and I woke up and stumbled out of the bedroom in like a pain med fog, wondering why on earth she would have people over in our house after what had just happened to us. But that was how she was coping and I needed to deal with it. So I just went back in the room and closed the door and went to bed. After that, things really started to go downhill because I think that I started to get tired of everything that she was doing. I was sick of putting up with her nonsense, with her lies, with her blatant disregard for me. So I asked her for a divorce, and she told everybody that it was because she needed to file bankruptcy, and that was why we were getting divorced, which was not the case. That had been a brief dinner conversation. After that is when the abuse got really bad. Trigger warning for more abusive discussion and topics. There is mention of physical abuse, narcissistic abuse, all sorts of stuff. So if this video just is too much, please don't watch it. After I had asked her for a divorce, we decided that she could still stay at the apartment while she was trying to figure out where she was going to go live. She came home trashed, or she would come home and get trashed on alcohol at night. And there was one night that I was sitting in the bathtub and she had linked our Google accounts so I could pay her bills. And I found these emails between her and her ex-husband, and she was sending him very dirty, very awful emails. I was obviously upset. I'd asked her for the divorce, and I had confronted her about it because I told her that I had found them over text message. We were fighting over the phone, and she came home and she was drinking. And I was sitting in the bathtub, and she was telling me that I was a liar and that she wasn't cheating on me and that I was just making anything up to divorce her because I didn't know how to have conversations or something ridiculous like that. I pulled the messages up and I started reading them to her. It made her really angry, and she stormed in the bathroom and she slapped my phone out of my hand and she told me to get out of the bathtub, and I got up and I told her to leave me alone, and I grabbed a towel and I went in the bedroom, and she blocked me in between the bed and the wall, and I tried to crawl up the bed to get away from her, and she had grabbed me by the throat and slammed me into the headboard. And started yelling at me and started screaming at me that I was a liar and those messages weren't real and that I was making it all up. And I just remember crying and telling her to leave me alone. After that happened, at this point, it's probably close to midnight because she worked really late. I had to be to work at 4 a.m. to go to the job that I was working at. So I just got dressed and put some clothes on and grabbed my things and went out to my car and drove and went and sat in my work parking lot for a few hours. I remember being in shock. I remember being scared. Not really understanding what had just happened to me, that somebody who claimed to love me could sit there and accuse me of the things that she was accusing me of, especially when confronted with proof with what she had done to me, and then to physically assault me over it just completely blew my mind. After that, I kicked her out of the apartment and told her that it was in my name. She could go live somewhere else. She wasn't going to be staying with me. I packed up all of her things. I told her that she could come get them. And so within a couple of days, she came over to come get them, and she started fighting with me about taking one of our dogs, and I told her she didn't even have a place to go. She wasn't going to take him. We started arguing about that, and then she got physically abusive again and violent and grabbed me and slammed me into one of the doors that we had behind the front door. We were yelling at each other, and I was telling her to leave me alone, and she was drunk, and she grabbed her things, and her friend left, and they went to go stay wherever she was going to stay. At this point, she was really drunk, and so I had called the police and told them that there was a drunk driver, and she had come back to my apartment, and I had woken up to her standing in my apartment asking if I had called the police on her, because they had pulled her over and had talked to her but didn't think that she was drunk, and so they didn't do anything about it. And so that was really scary too, of like, oh my God, this person can lie to the police and get away with it. That was super horrifying and really eye-opening. And so I was genuinely afraid of her. I was afraid of what she would do, of what she could say. Like, here's this person who's manipulated me for the last year, and then she can also lie to the police and get away with it. So that was really scary. After all of that had happened, I ended up moving out of my apartment and moving somewhere else, and we talked, and we were trying to be friends after that, because even after everything that she had done, I was trying to keep it civil so I could get the divorce, because she wouldn't sign the papers. She kept coming up with excuses. She was trying to say that she didn't need to pay any of the debt that was in my name, that was also hers. So we were going back and forth for a while on that. I was in this crippling amount of debt. Meanwhile, she has been saving all the money that she's been making and gets to go move into a townhome with some friends. She's getting to live this life and not paying any of the bills that are in my name that are from her. And it was just like really, really abusive. And because she was so much older than me, she had so much more experience in what to do in life with these things that I didn't know yet. I'm working, trying to keep my head above water, and she won't give me a divorce. She keeps denying it. She won't sign the papers. I keep telling her we need to go to mediation. She won't. So instead, I try to take the angle of like being friends with her. I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I keep this civil and I'm friends with her, she will sign the papers. And she was so much nicer to me if I was friends with her. And so I start doing that, and I start trying to be nice, and we're hanging out, and she's staying over with me every once in a while to come see the dogs. And the whole time that we're friends, she's telling me about women that she's sleeping with and people she's dating and how great her life is and all of these wonderful things. And meanwhile, I'm drowning and she doesn't care. It all came to this really sudden stop. I had just turned 21, and she is on the phone with me on a 3-way call with her best friend who's in her 30s, and I'm 21, and they are both just screaming at me and bullying me and degrading me, and they keep yelling at me and telling me that I'm an awful person. She told me that I killed her kids. She told me that I needed to get my life together, and it was just really, really abusive. And at that point, like, things got really dark for me, because I didn't feel like I was going to survive that. The things that she said to me were awful, and it was just a huge implication of how her being so much older than me was affecting me. Because as a 27-year-old now, I would never say half the things she said to me, like, to a 21-year-old, let alone anybody, but especially not somebody that young. I wouldn't even be friends with a 19-year-old. Like, I work with 19-year-olds, and they're babies. So how she thought that it was okay to marry someone who was that age and to get them pregnant and to abuse them and gaslight them and cheat on them and manipulate them and love bomb them. Like, I just don't understand how somebody does that. And the crazy thing is like, when we were dating, nobody bat an eye. Nobody bat an eye that I was 19 and she was 27. Nobody bat an eye when we got married. Nobody thought that it was weird. Nobody said anything, because we were both women, and she looks younger than me. And so I think that that played a factor into it too, is that she looks younger than me. And so people were just like, oh, it's fine. Like, nobody can tell that there's an age gap there. But there was, and her ability to know more about life and have the knowledge that she had gave her significant power over me. I didn't know how credit worked when we were together. I didn't know that me taking out all these loans in my name for her meant that she didn't have any financial obligation to them. I didn't know half of the things that she did when it came to the adult world. I knew nothing, and she took advantage of that. And she knew how to manipulate me. She saw me as somebody who needed to be loved and who wanted to be loved. And so she jumped on that and decided to start dating me and to use that, because people who were her own age knew that she wasn't anything worth being around. it is so mind-blowing to me that that was ever allowed to happen, that it was ever supported. That relationship caused so much trauma that I've had to undo. It's caused trauma that I'm still undoing, that I still have to wrap my brain around. There are things even that I'm talking about in this video that I forgot had happened because my brain just blocks it out. After everything had happened, I ended up moving out of state so that way I could get divorced, because it's easier to get divorced not in Utah. At this point, I believe I was still trying to maintain a friendly relationship with her because the divorce hadn't been finalized yet and she owed me money. And the only time that she would pay me is if I was talking to her. So it was this weird balance of control, and I didn't have the money to pay the bills that I needed her to pay that she was responsible for. And she would always wait until the 10 minutes before the payment would be late. So I would have to sit for an extra 10 days past the due date with anxiety of like, I can't afford a late fee. This is gonna mess my credit up. And she would sit and she would pay it at the very last second because it was just another way for her to have control of me. After I had left, she would text me and tell me that our dog was sick because I left, and that the vet and the dog trainer said that if he dies that it was my fault. Like, she would say these really awful, hurtful things to me. I honestly, truly do not know how she lives with herself with half the things that she said and did to me. I don't know how she could have ever thought that any of that was acceptable or okay. I get that hurt people, but this is a whole different breed of a hurt person. It took me a really long time to come to terms with the fact that I was assaulted by my ex-wife physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it. In any way that you can abuse somebody, she did it to me. And I am so grateful that I had my friends and my sister who helped me get out of that experience. I'm so grateful for my willingness to get out of it and my willingness to go to therapy to undo all of the trauma that I went through so that way it doesn't manifest itself in other toxic ways. I'm so glad that I was able to get away from her finally. Being back in Utah has been really hard because like she still lives here and it's scary, but I know that I have the coping skills now and the support system and the ability that I am safe and that I'm okay if I do see her. But I'm glad that I was able to get out of that. I know that some of you have probably seen some of my TikToks where I talk about age gap dating. This video, this explanation, this is why I'm so against it. If I had been dating somebody my age, it probably wouldn't have been as crazy as it was. I don't know. I'm sure that there are other horror stories of people who manipulate and abuse their partners that are closer in age, but for me, this is my story and this is why I am so against it. I don't think that there's any reason for somebody who is in their 20s to be dating a teenager. I don't. I don't think that somebody who is 30 should be dating somebody who's 21. The maturity levels in those ages are just so different. Like, your brain hasn't even fully developed yet until you're 25. And dating somebody who is that much older than you, who can be abusive and manipulate you and have more experience in life, they can do a lot of damage. There's so many things that come from this past relationship that have changed who I am as a person, that makes me think differently. And I know that there's some people that will take that and be like, well, like, look at what you learned. And it's like, yeah, cool, I learned it, but I shouldn't have had to learn it that way. Nobody should have to be abused to learn a lesson. Anyways, that's my story on age gap dating. Now you guys know how I feel about it. You know what happened to me, why I don't think it's appropriate. Like, please, if you have another viewpoint, I always want to hear it. Like, leave comments down below. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it. Tell me why you think it should be acceptable. Tell me why you think it shouldn't be. Tell me why you think that it's so accepted in the queer community. Tell me all that. If you have another viewpoint that maybe I haven't thought of, like, please leave a comment down below. I want to hear about it. Tell me your story. Like, if you have a positive or a negative experience with age gap dating. This is mine and this is how I feel about it and this is my stance on it, but I want to hear your points. So don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things, leave a comment. Stay tuned. We post videos every Monday. And the next one, Michaela should be in it. She's just hopefully not at work. So anyways, I'll talk to you later. Bye.